All right, everybody. Welcome back to another edition of The Teardown. My name is Jeff Gluck, and I'm along with my coworker, Jordan Bianchi. We are motorsports writers for The Athletic, and today we're here to talk about the Las Vegas Motor Speedway race, the first race of round 3. And, of course, I have to start by saying, Jordan, I told you so. Even your Logano, why did you not listen to me all along?
You're right. My fault. These receipts I have right here in my hand must be inaccurate. Let me just quote you directly, Jeff. I actually went back and listened to our podcast post Atlanta, 37-minute mark of the show. You mocked me as I made my case for Joey Logano. I said he is gritty. They find a way. It doesn't matter. They are the toughest out. They find a way. It doesn't matter what they did during the regular season. They win races. They get it done. And I'm not even talking about even year, and we can talk about that. But you laughed at me. You said, yes, I would be surprised if Logano won the championship title. He's not going to win. He will not win. Then, this is my favorite. This is my favorite. How are they going to make it through round 3? How are they going to make it through round 3? And I said to you, they will find a way. I got receipts, my friend. I got receipts.
Very well done. Very well done. I mean, bravo to you. You nailed it. I for sure was wrong on this one. I mean, the guy was eliminated last week, by the way.
I mean, that's the week he's had is incredible. I mean, there's no doubt. And you're right. I mean, like, you look at the totality of the season and the regular season and all of the stuff, and I get it. But this format, and I'm guilty of this. We're all guilty. We sometimes lose sight of this. It's not about the body of work necessarily. It's about getting hot at the right time of year and finding a way to capitalize on other people's misfortune and just finding a way to flip, okay days into great days and doing whatever it takes to win races. And this team does an exceptional job of that. We hear all the time about how teams and drivers aren't clutch and they make mistakes at opportune moments. We don't say that about this team. They're the opposite of somebody who stumbles over themselves. They are the epitome of clutch.
Hey, look, they for sure got it done. Let's not pretend like he came out here and was the fastest car, though, and he raced his way in, with
doesn't matter,
dominating performance. He got, I mean, look, they played it absolutely perfectly. They got the strategy exactly right, but they played a strategy that essentially was given to them in a way, right? The caution came out when Ty Gibbs spun. The caution came out right at the edge of the fuel window. The leaders, like Christopher Bell, who dominated this race, could not take a strategy of trying to make it all the way because they were going to, as Adam Stevens, we talked to him after the race. He says, look, by leading, we were going to burn so much fuel. We couldn't save enough to make it from there. So the teams that, weren't going to have a chance to win straight up had to try something different. Logano did. And kudos to them. They deserve all the credit in the world. He has a habit of somehow maximizing these days where he doesn't have the best car. He's not even really, I mean, maybe he's going to finish in the top 5, maybe a 5th to 15th place car or something. And he somehow is able to milk his fuel. I mean, this is a guy who wasn't even going to make the playoffs. If he did not save his fuel for 5 overtimes at Nashville, he would have been eliminated. He would not have made the playoffs. He saves his fuel at Nashville. He makes it. Again, 15th in regular season points, wins Atlanta. And now here he is in round 3. After he was eliminated, but Alex Bowman got DQ'd, he gets back in and he comes out the first race, saves his fuel again, and now he's back in the championship 4. It's an unbelievable story. It's definitely one of those only in NASCAR type moments, certainly for motorsports. But I mean, look, you gotta take your hat off to the guy. He did it. It's really amazing. It's pretty remarkable.
It is. And I go back to 2020, which to me is kind of, I think, the best example of this. Is that was the year where Kevin Harvick was so dominant. And it was like earmarked that Harvick was going to win the championship. And you go to Kansas, which is a 1.5-mile racetrack that is arguably Harvick's very best. He is so good there. That team is so good there. He had the best car. And late in the race, Logano got in front of him and aero blocked the hell out of him and did everything he could to keep him behind it. And it was like, oh my goodness, the fastest car didn't win the race. He couldn't pass, etc. Didn't matter. Like, he just finds this way to do it. And I get what you're saying. To me, when I look at this race, I almost thought I was a little curious about their strategy. I don't want to say I second guessed it because it's really hard to guess Paul Wolf in these moments anymore. Like after Nashville and after this, it's like the nickname. I don't know if we can say it on the show. Is that appropriate to say on the show? Like,
Big ball
but
Paul.
Big ball Paul, man. Like I don't know how you question him anymore.
That's what Joey Logano said.
Yeah, and I thought almost, I was like, out of all of the bad days that the other playoff guys have had, are you better off just kind of following in line and, pitting and making sure you get to the finish? You're going to finish, maybe somewhere in the back half of the top 10, who knows? But you're likely going to still leave Las Vegas on the plus side after you came in, below. Like you just say, hey, that's a win and we're going to take it. We'll go to Homestead. We're going to keep grinding it out. And I was like, maybe I don't quite understand this. I get what they're doing. They're going for the win and it makes sense. But it's like, also like it's a risk. And if it backfires, you really are then in a must win. But they felt like they had to win. Their best path to get the championship 4 wasn't going to be able to point their way in. And it's like, we got to win a race somehow, some way. And they figured it out. And here we are.
So that's what I thought too. But Paul Wolf said after the race that it actually, he didn't really think that it was going to be the winning call necessarily, but he knew that Logano could save enough points and or save enough fuel to get points. So let's say Bell does end up passing him there, right? And he knows Logano's not going to run himself out of fuel because Logano's so good at that. He could finish second. He could finish third. That's still going to be an amazing day and maximize the position that they were in. And that's why Paul Wolf said he did it. Now, it just so happened that they were able to win it, which makes it look even better. But, it's just, and by the way, I stand by everything that I said in all the receipts. There's no way I'm picking him for the championship. No way. And if they win it, then I'll say I'm wrong again. I'm not going to sit here and go, oh, well, now they're in it. And yes, I know their short track program has been good, but they haven't been the fastest car. I'm still going to lean toward the fastest car. Now, let's look at the other, why some other people didn't win, right? Like Christopher Bell. We talked to Adam Stevens afterwards, okay? He lays out that, basically they did what they had to do. There's no second guessing for themselves. And Bell himself, like he was talking, we asked him, about that last run. He had 70 whatever laps to do this. And he said there wasn't a moment where I felt like I got hung up in traffic too much or I didn't do a good enough job of getting through the field. Like Bell did everything he was supposed to do. He's not going to lie there awake at night and second guess himself. Adam Stevens isn't going to second guess himself. They played the strategy that they essentially had to play, and Logano's team played the strategy they had to play. One worked out, one didn't. But unfortunately, the way the system is, it's not of much solace to Bell because, here's what Adam Stevens said about it, right? He's like, okay, yes, we're in a good points position, right? Like he's 42 up, I think, 45 up, something like that on the cut line, right? But you don't know if there's another new winner, if there's another winner next week that kind of moves the line or whatever, or just takes a spot away. And then there's another winner, Martinsville. Suddenly, if there's 3 different winners, Bell could be looking at battling with Larson for the spot to go to Homestead or the spot to go to Phoenix, excuse me. And that's only 7 points right now, right? So you could say, oh, he's so far above the cut line. He's going to be fine, but not really. Yeah. And that's assuming that's even if he doesn't have a bad race. So Bell said this was a dagger way worse than last year, which you'll remember this race last year. He had it in control in some aspects, lost the lead on pit road and wasn't able to execute and said, I'm not really good at Homestead. Then he went and won Homestead, but that was also a race where Kyle Larson crashed into the water barriers. Denny Hamlin had his steering problem. Bell executed in that one and won it, but here he had the fastest car. He led the most laps he's ever led at an intermediate track. And it looked like they were going to, put their stamp on, hey, him being the favorite. But they didn't get it done, but not of their own doing necessarily. Like the circumstances worked out that way.
Circumstances did work out that way. And I don't fault them for that call of let's not gamble here. If we try to make it on fuel, we don't know what that mileage is going to be. We're out front. We're burning more fuel. We can't make it. And if we don't make it, we free fall through the standings. And yeah, we got stage points and everything, and that's going to help negate it a little bit, but we're still going to leave a lot of points on the table. Better to finish second and get all those stage points that we had than finish 10th or 15th or anywhere else. In the big picture, you're right. I mean, if someone else wins next week and that line moves, I still think they're in a really good spot. I mean, they're going to have to, something bad is going to have to happen to them the next 2 weeks. It's certainly can happen, but I really like this team and where they're at. They go and run top 10 the next 2 weeks. It's not an issue. I feel like this was the smart move. It's like, don't put yourself in an unnecessary hole when you don't need to. And by gambling, I felt like you open up that possibility of putting yourself in a hole. It goes sideways. All of a sudden, you're like, oh, man, okay, now we're on our back foot going to Homestead and Martinsville. And that's not where you want to be.
But I think that the Adam Stevens point is it wasn't even an option, because with them leading at that point,
they didn't have enough fuel.
They were burning so much fuel from the lead. He said we were going to have to let 10 cars pass us. You can't let 10 cars pass you with 70 to go. It doesn't seem like a great strategy. And you also don't know how that last run's going to play out as well, right? Because if there's a caution, then you get pinned. Unfortunately, the caution, which was their own teammate, by the way, Ty Gibbs, spinning while battling Larson, it just set up a caution right at the wrong spot. So, if that caution doesn't happen right then, that's not, Paul Wolf said in the post race too, like that was the exact scenario they talked about in their pre-race meeting of how far they could go. And when you give Logano a situation where you say, hey, listen, you've got X amount of laps and you only have to save like a lap of fuel, he can do it. So pretty amazing, because, like Cliff Daniels came on the radio for Kyle Larson as they took the restart with 69 to go. And he says, even though these guys just pitted, I don't think any of them are going to make it, plan on one more pit stop. And that just wasn't what Paul Wolf had in mind. Paul Wolf, I think Trey Ryan is the one that posted this on Twitter. Paul Wolf now takes the lead in active crew chief victories, 41, one over Rodney Childers. So this guy, this team, this driver, all together, they know how to get it done. And this is their time of year, clearly. I mean, I don't know why I doubted them, but
I don't know why you did either. I don't know why you mocked and ridiculed me. You scoffed at me. That's fine. I don't know what I'm talking about. That's fine. That's all good.
I mean, again, at this time last week, they were eliminated, to my credit.
That's fine.
Out of the playoffs, but okay. All right.
They find a way.
Listen, you were right. You were completely right. I was definitely wrong.
Again,
I will continue to doubt them.
It's fine. You're probably going to be wrong, because that's usually what happens. I get it. Paul Wolf, in his history, you even go back to 2012 at Dover. There was a fuel mileage call there that really was pivotal in that championship that year. And he, kept Keselowski out there way longer than he should have. And I don't know if Brad won that race or he finished like second or third or something like that. And it was a huge boost to their championship. But he has a history of this. He is really good at putting his drivers in situations of managing races. Here's what we need to do. Here's our contingency plans. And here's how the chips are going to fall. You go back to Nashville, it's the same thing. And he never questions himself. There's no doubt. And he is one of the more underrated crew chiefs in the garage. We talk a lot about Adam Stevens and Cliff Daniels and Gabe Hart all the time, but Wolf and Adam Stevens are the only active crew chiefs with multiple championships to their name. He just read the stat. He's now leads all active crew chiefs in wins. And Paul is a very unassuming guy, very mild mannered, doesn't get fired up on the radio. He doesn't give the big speeches or anything like that, and doesn't give give insightful deep breakdowns of things. He just kind of goes about his business, and we overlook him a lot. But he is so good at managing these situations, and he has done it year after year with multiple drivers now.
So we mentioned that Bell, pretty much had the day that he needed to have. It just didn't work out for him strategy-wise. But other than that, you can't really get mad at themselves. They're plus 42. So we also mentioned Larson. He's plus 35. Now, Larson obviously had a much more eventful day because he had to mount a major comeback. He ends up finishing 11th, which is a huge win from being 2 laps down. So the first thing that happened to them, I believe this is the first thing. You'll remember that he had to come down pit road suddenly when the field was, I think, about to take the green, and he had a piece of like aluminum in his car. They said, and they had to take it out. So Cliff Daniels told a few of us afterwards that was actually a piece of Austin Dillon's wheel. Austin Dillon hit the wall so hard that his wheel came apart. They know it was Austin Dillon's wheel because Cliff Daniels told us that it still had a 3 on it, on the metal fragment that was in Larson's car. So that was a big piece that they had to get out of there. So they lost all their track position there. So then they had this nightmarish pit stop, which I'm sure everybody, saw. So this is what happened, according to Cliff Daniels. They are finishing up the right side of the car, and the tire carrier who checks and makes sure that everything's all good, kind of like had a double take for a minute and realized that the right side was not totally, secure. There was a problem on the right side that needed to be retightened. But to the point where he realized it, they had already started their choreography on the left side of the car. So he's motioning to Cliff Daniels like, hey, like, well, we got a problem here. We got a problem on the right side. So Cliff Daniels said, unfortunately, what happened was there was sort of a moment where everybody froze. They didn't really know what to do. There was a little bit of inaction, which is rare for the number 5 team, right? But it was just a little bit of a rare situation. So they ended up finishing the left front, but they didn't change the left rear. And instead, they went back around and fixed the right rear. But then he leaves the pit box, and the left rear tire was so old that they had to come back in. And Cliff Daniels said that's what was really the killer, because we had to roll back down pit road again. If we had just taken the time while we were still there to go ahead and then change the left rear tire, we needed to, that would have cost us a few extra seconds. But what really put us behind there, and he said we might have only maybe been 1 lap down. But unfortunately, at that moment, they go 2 laps down. Larson gets 1 lap back when he passes Suarez. And then he got the lucky dog later when Ty Gibbs spun. And then he rallies back up to 11th. So he's okay, right? Like, he's not amazing. He's plus 35. But sort of it could have been a pretty terrible race for them, the way things were looking for a while. He has obviously had 2 bad races in each of the first races of the round. And he's been able to overcome that so far. But this was looking not so great. But the number 5 team kept their composure and was able to at least salvage something out of it.
Yeah, rare mistake on pit road. Number 5 team statistically is actually one of the better teams on pit road this year. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They execute real well. They get their driver off a pit road efficiently. This, however, was it. And it was very atypical of how they handled this situation. Usually you want to just take your medicine. Just take your lumps, take the extra few seconds, fix it, put all the tires on, then go. They didn't do that in this situation, and it cost them. If they would have done that, I feel like they would have probably finished better than would have, because it wouldn't have been, they were 2 laps down. They ended up, cycling back out to 1 lap, and then they get the lucky dog. And it was just, they never were able to get track position really after that point. And Larson said his car at the end of the race just wasn't handling as well as he wanted to. Good news for him, though, finishes 11th, which is much better than how he started at the rounds at Atlanta and at Kansas. And then you look at next week, he was going to Homestead, which is where he's really, really good. You have to feel really confident about his chances, not just to advance, but probably get a win these next 2 weeks, even at Martinsville where he's good. But really atypical for them, but still grinded it out. And you look at it, like you said, Jeff, 35 points. That's a good amount. And considering all the troubles that everyone else had today, you got to be happy with that.
Another driver, the next guy in points above the cut line, William Byron, plus 27. Now, what's interesting about that is in the early part of this race, Byron was running outside the top 10 while his 3 Hendrick Motorsports teammates were running 3, 4, 5. And it looked like Byron was sort of the outlier among Hendrick cars, and really not having that great of a day, not having the speed they needed. Byron ends up, Rudy Fugle calls for him to take 2 tires. And once he got that track position, he was able to really hang on to that. I asked Byron about that afterward. And he said it was not just the two tires, but they were steadily getting their car better. He did acknowledge that, in the first stage, he was a little bit worried, like, oh gosh, we don't have the speed we need here to compete. And this is a key moment, a key race. But he's able to get back up there. They felt as well like they played the only strategy they could. So he ends up finishing fourth. Would have liked to get a little higher, obviously, but they'll take the fourth place points and move on in relatively okay shape, certainly plus 27. By the way, plus 27 for after the first race of a round is a pretty big gap, wouldn't you say?
Seems like it's a big number. I've learned that quickly those numbers can go away. But yeah, with stage points and everything, but it does seem a big number, 27. And to me, it's just not the 27. It's also looking ahead to saying, okay, where are you going next? What's your history at this track? Is it a track that, typically produces chaos and that kind of thing? Homestead's not that place. Homestead's a place where he's won before. They typically run well. You can manage your race there. You don't have the big incidents around you that you can get collected in that aren't your fault. And so to me, 27 is a very large number.
So where do you feel about Byron now? Because I've been kind of iffy on Byron. I feel like they haven't really showed the speed they need to contend for the championship but they're obviously a capable team. They just haven't won for a while. Here they are. They're in decent shape. Do you see them making it to Phoenix?
We said on this show last week, we kind of went through everybody, and then we didn't really touch on William Byron. And I looked at it again. Second at Kansas, third at Talladega, third at the Roval, fourth at Las Vegas. And that to me is a team, they're back. Whatever they were at the beginning of the year, they were running on, they're winning races and they're up front. They're doing that again. They're doing it on a bunch of different tracks, particularly mile and a half. Kansas and Las Vegas, to me, are indicative of really the where this team is at performance-wise, because those are the places where you have to execute. You got to have aero. You got to have green flag pit stops. You got to execute strategy. All of those elements come into play on these mile and a half racetracks. You're going to another mile and a half racetrack next week. Yeah, they don't have the win. They haven't won in a while. That's fine. But they're doing the things that they need to do. I like them a lot. And then let's talk about where they're going after Martinsville. They're going after Homestead. They're going to Martinsville, which, oh, by the way, they won there earlier this year. So yeah, I like this team a lot. And, to me, I'm having something is going to have to go wrong these next 2 weeks for this team not to make it to the championship 4.
Well, something definitely went wrong for a few drivers early in this race, Jordan. And this is the kind of thing that you can't really predict. So Tyler Reddick makes it 3 wide on the top with Truex on the bottom, Chase Elliott in the middle. Now, to me, it looked like it was Truex's fault. Like Truex is the one that kind of came up the track and pinched Chase Elliott into Reddick, who then hit the wall, hit Elliott. Reddick obviously flips over. And by the way, one of the most badass things I've seen, he flips over and then drives the car back to his pit stall after he was sliding upside down in the
It was like Dale Earnhardt, 1997 again.
You don't see that very often, for sure.
No.
Obviously, Reddick was done after that. Elliott had long repairs in the garage, lost 20-something laps, whatever it was. He quit after the race because after he couldn't make up any more spots, they just pulled it in and parked it. They were like, we're just not going to finish this race after he wasn't going to catch Blaney. But I think he was 26, 27 laps or something like that down when they pulled in the garage and called it a day. But certainly, and then as well, Ryan Blaney, who had to start in the back due to a flat tire practice and a backup car, and he crashed. He got a piece of that as well when Keselowski came up. So 3 playoff drivers there, Truex involved, and it changes the game quite a bit for those guys because now Reddick is minus 30. Blaney is minus 47 and Chase Elliott is minus 53. they are in really bad shape already with 2 races to go in this round. Are you thinking that for them it's must-win territory already?
Yeah, it's must win. And honestly, I feel if I'm Tyler Reddick, I think if you don't win Homestead, I think your playoff's over. Because I don't know if Tyler Reddick can go to Homestead. I don't know if Tyler Reddick can go to Martinsville and win that race. I don't see that happening. And so to me, if Tyler Reddick leaves Homestead without a win at minus 30-ish, he's out of the playoffs. The regular season champion is not going to make the championship 4. I believe Blaney could easily win Martinsville. We know his history there. Elliott could win the next 2 weeks. I don't know if Blaney can win next week, but all of these guys are in a must-win spot. And to me, I look at this as this was an opportunity race for these guys. This is a track where all 3 of them were expected to do well. And you go there, even Elliott, history says Elliott doesn't typically do well at Las Vegas, but you figure you give them the benefit of the doubt. And obviously they had speed in the race car because they picked up a ton of spots. They were number 2 in positions gained early in the race, only behind Blaney, who started in the back. And you're like, okay. And to leave here with the finish they did and the points hole they did, that has to be demoralizing, especially for Blaney, especially for Reddick, because you think like, listen, we're going to go there and we've got an opportunity. Reddick finished 2nd in the fall or the spring here. And, he's got speed in his race car, qualifies on the front row, all of these things, and then gets caught up in this incident. And it's just like, wow, it goes from really good to really bad, really, really quick. And now you're staring at a deficit that the only way to make it up is to win. And that's not going to be easy to do.
Well, obviously this is another one of those unpredictable moments in an unpredictable sport. If you think you have a hunch though, and you might as well try, I guess, if you think you can predict this stuff. You can start the season, the NFL season, with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game or the race, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com/teardown to check out this offer. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports book partner of NFL. Sorry, that's FanDuel.com/teardown. Please use our code to support our show. Must be 21 and present in North Carolina. First real online money wager only. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets, which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See terms at FanDuel sportsbook.fanduel.com. If you have a gambling problem, call 877-718-5543 or visit morethanagame.nc.gov. Jordan, I had some trouble with that ad read, just like Denny Hamlin's pit crew had some trouble on their pit stops today. Not the smoothest, would you say?
No, they just had a bad day all around. They didn't have speed in the race car. I was really shocked. I've said that I thought this was, once Denny Hamlin got in this run, I thought they were going to do really, really well. I thought this was be an opportunity for them to kind of re-solidify themselves, to say, hey, we are a championship threat, and to join that Larson Bell group that, we kind of already penciled in. And they didn't run well. They didn't. I mean, I know they grinded out a decent finish today, but it was a struggle. And yes, they had issues on pit road. But even before that, like Gabehart had a tough day in the pit box. His pit call there to only take 2 tires was probably one he would probably want back. Hamlin fell, free fall there, cost some track position. They never got that back. The speed wasn't there. Rallied back at the end. Impressive. Kudos for that. But not that at all the day I don't think anyone thought they were going to have. And now you look at the situation they're in, you would think they'd be able to go to Homestead and have a really good day, or even at Martinsville. But this was disappointing. This was not at all what we expected. And now I'm not sure what to expect the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, I echo your comments there in that I thought this was the time where we're going to see what the 11 team really has, right? There's been so many times when it felt like, well, they have had really fast cars. They just haven't had a chance to show it. Well, certainly, once you get to the real racing, we'll see what the strength that they really have. And it felt like, even if you take, the 2-tire strategy call away, which I think that was a play for track position, which it actually worked out for Byron. I think that was the same time that Byron did that, and it worked. I believe. But yeah, Denny then fell backwards to 27th. And then, he got back up to 19th, but then he has a loose wheel on the pit stop after stage 2. And that cost them more time. But but even then it felt like you weren't really seeing the speed of their car. Like they couldn't really go forward in the way that I thought they could. Like Larson was able to pass them. And, it just, I don't know. Like, I mean, they finished 8th. So that's salvaging a day, right? Like, they had enough speed, I guess, to get back up there, and that worked out for them essentially. But it just didn't feel like they had the speed that I was expecting from the 11 team, where like championship caliber, like just extreme excellence. It just didn't feel like they had that, or like they weren't as strong as I thought. I don't know why, and maybe part of it was track position. If they had clean air, they would have looked better, but it seemed like Bell was faster, among their own teammates. It seemed like maybe even Truex was faster.
Gibbs led a bunch of laps today too.
I just didn't really, that was confusing. And so now I'm very curious to see Hamlin go to Homestead, where, he had, obviously he was in position last year, and then this is where it kind of ended for him, because he had that steering issue and it suddenly all went wrong and he crashed. I don't know that he's going to go win there, but if he's at least in contention for a top 5, he can narrow the gap heading into Martinsville, which you would think you would feel good about if you're him. But 27 points, who in what way are you going to gain that on Byron? In what way are you going to gain that on Larson and Bell? It's going to be tough to take big chunks out of that without something happening to them, even if you run really well. Yeah. So
you need help. You need help.
You could get stage points and whittle away at it, but it's not a great position to be leaving minus 27 after the first race of this round, when you thought finally this is the round where they can show their stuff, and now they're in sort of the same situation they've been in.
Yeah, and what jumped out to me was they didn't have the same speed as their teammates. All three of the Gibbs, all the Gibbs cars, all ran up front today consistently. All took turns, kind of. Really, Gibbs led a bunch, 23 laps. Bell was dominant. Truex was in the mix. Hamlin was never really in that conversation. Even from the drop of the green flag, it was like backwards. And yeah, I don't. Is he in a must-win spot? Like, I feel like he is, but 27 points, 2 races.
I don't think must-win.
Yeah, it's weird, but I go back and forth on it, because I look at the guys ahead of him, and I don't expect any of those guys to have horrible races the next 2 weeks. But the nice thing for Denny is he is that first driver below the cut line. So if someone above him does stumble, you just keep chipping away, but you need stage points. You've got to, these next 4 stages over these next 2 weeks, you've got to finish, and you've got to get points, and you've got to whittle it away where it is a realistic number going into Martinsville. Where it's like, okay, if we can finish in the first 2 stages, get some points there, it's like, come to the 3rd stage, we have a chance. At least give yourself a chance. It's right in the edge, though. But what confidence do you have that they can turn this around after a race where everybody kind of circled and said, hey, this is where the 11 team is going to come to play? And they didn't do it today.
Just remember, though, let's just look. It's some of this is really hard to envision in the moment, because you look at these numbers and you go, wow, that's a big deficit. But let's remember, and Christopher Bell brought this up after the race, Justin Allgaier at Bristol, regular season championship points lead for the Xfinity Series. He was up by 43 points going into that race, and he coughed up that lead to Cole Custer in one night, 43 points. So we've seen wild swings. Like, it's possible that there can be wild swings. And so when we look at, Reddick, down minus 30. I mean, again, let's say Reddick goes to Homestead even, where he's obviously great. And let's say he gets 19 stage points and a top 5 finish. And even just without anything bad happening to the people in front of him, he's able to get within 10 points going to Martinsville. Suddenly it's totally doable, and pressure does a lot of things. We saw, Byron fading last year, just trying to hang on in a really tough spot when he wasn't feeling great inside the car, and it was all this stuff. So things happen. I mean, it's I don't think any, Elliott being minus 53, that's pretty bad. Blaney minus 47, pretty bad. But I still think within 32 races to go, it's not that dire. I don't know.
It's not necessarily dire, but again, you need help. That's the problem. Outside of going and winning the race where you can control your destiny that way.
I disagree. I'm saying I don't think you need help. I think you can outrun people and erase it.
No, but you're going to need Byron to have a off day. I mean, if you're going to close 27 points on Byron, he can't finish 10th. He's going to have a bad day. Allgaier coughed up that lead because he had a bad day. And then conversely, Cole Custer had a really, really good day. So that's why, like, you need other things outside of your control to happen. And that's where I give pause, is like, once you lose control of it, then it's like, okay, yeah, we can go have a great race. We can get all the stage points we want to. But if Byron is finishing behind us every stage, we're not picking up a whole lot, that's the problem. So you just don't know. Now, it can happen. Sure. Hell, I mean, no one thought Kyle Larson was going to slam into the water barrels at Homestead of all places last year, right? Things happen. Byron, who was good at Martinsville, was horrible last fall and barely hung on. But outside of winning, your fate is really tied to what other people can do.
Well, it's time to talk about the key decision of the race. This segment is sponsored by Safety Culture, the workplace operations platform giving teams what they need to get the job done quicker and improve every day. Safety Culture, a better way of working. It's pretty clear that one of the key decisions, Jordan, was the Paul Wolf call to stay out and try to make it to the end. I don't know. Is there another decision that can even factor in there?
It's a decision within a decision, because as we talked about earlier, the decision was to keep Logano out here, and we're going to try to finish second, third, have a really good points day, right? But if you listen to the radio with about 10, 15 laps to go or so, they realize Suarez is backed way down, and their mind flipped. It went from, hey, we're going to try to finish second or third and trying to finish up here, to, whoa, let's go run down the 99. Let's put some distance between us and the 20. Let's win this damn race and make Bell come and catch us. To me, that was the key moment there. I mean, in a sequence of key moments, that was the one that really put this team in victory lane, because then they went for it and said, hey, we're not just content to finish second or third or top five. We're going to go win this damn thing, and we're going to punch our ticket to the championship for it. That, to me, is the definitive key moment.
And for me, just to not repeat you, I think one key decision could be to turn out with Byron, Rudy Fugle taking 2 tires early in the race there to get him track position, because again, it wasn't looking so great for him early, and he was able to get, better track position, get a little bit cleaner air, and they were able to work on their car from there. And now he goes into Homestead, where he should have a good day, with a decent little cushion. So that's one of those things where you start the race and you go, this doesn't look so good. I mean, you've unloaded off the truck here, and boy, I don't know. I don't know where this is going. And maybe this is, going to spell doom, especially when it looked like, 7 of the top 9 or whatever at one point were playoff drivers before all the incidents. You're like, man, where's Byron in this? Where's he going to end up? He was running the lowest of those, not counting Blaney, who had started from the back. And it was like, he didn't seem to have it. And then, they get that track position and it worked out for him. So that was a big moment to leave here, plus 27 when it looked like they could have been below the cut line. So that will be mine, just to not, obviously the Logano Paul Wolf thing is pretty tough to pass up, but, and I like your point too about how they handle that with Suarez. So a lot of key decisions here. Well, Safety Culture is a workplace operations tool that gives teams what they need to get the job done quickly and improve every day. But what does that actually mean? Well, obviously, if you're part of a company, a business, a team, etc., efficiency is everything. No matter what you're trying to achieve, no one has time to waste. From construction sites to factory floors, safety culture is designed to drive improvements not just in safety, but broadly across quality and efficiency too. It's all about meeting higher standards by bringing the whole team onto one page, all from their mobile device. We know that Trackhouse Racing is not only a supporter of Shane Van Gisbergen's car, but they are a big believer in the Safety Culture app. They use Safety Culture's app to manage everything from pre-race inspections on the car to assembly checks and even in-house training, all on their very own operations platform. If you're a team leader, the Safety Culture app can help you get greater visibility across your whole operation so you can make confident decisions fast. If you work behind the scenes, Safety Culture can give you access to the knowledge and tools to ensure your success and help you make every second count. Are you ready to put your workplace in the pole position? Head to safetyculture.com/SVG. That's safetyculture.com/SVG. Well, do you have any change in how you're looking at the Final Four now? You must, because I know as bullish as you've been on Logano, you somehow didn't pick him for your Final Four. So
no, and as bullish as I was on Hamlin, I'm not feeling confident about that. So I'm going to take out Hamlin. I'm going to throw in Logano, Bell, Larson, Byron, Logano.
So the people above the cut line.
Yeah, there's no change. These next weeks, let's just move on to Phoenix. Let's save everybody some time. Let's just go to Phoenix. There's no change. You?
Yeah. So obviously I've been on Bell the whole time. I still think he's going to win the championship. I still think he should be the favorite based on where this whole thing ends. Look how well he's been running lately. Look, nothing against Larson, but I just think going to Phoenix, Bell will be the guy to beat. Obviously, like Larson to make it. Logano's locked in. And I'm not saying it's over yet for Tyler Reddick. I might be at this time next week after Homestead, but with Homestead there and Tyler Reddick, that's a race he could go win. He can go there and run the wall and have a great race. I think it's very doable to at least have a good day. And so I'm not ready to put Byron in yet. I will still have Reddick in there in my Final Four. I've had him in since the preseason. So I'm going to have Reddick in my Final Four for now too. So I've got Bell, Larson, Logano, and Reddick.
No Byron. All right.
Not at this time. Not at this time. I'm not quite sold yet. Yep. Not sold yet. But.
So if Reddick doesn't win next week and just has let's say he finishes third, but has a decent points day, you'd still feel pretty confident?
No, I'm saying at this time next week, I think that could change. I really think, like
he's got to win
in
next
the show,
week.
That that's a big moment.
Yeah,
that's a big moment for Reddick next week. This is like a it's not a must win, but you're talking about the chance to capitalize on a track that you're really good at, and that I don't want to go to Martinsville trying to make up points if you're Reddick. So I don't know. I think that's the guy to watch in a lot of cases, along with Larson, obviously, at Homestead. But Reddick, I mean, he won 2 Xfinity championships by being elite there. So
he did, and he's been elite. He's been nearly elite. Let me read you his stats at Cup: 4 career starts at Homestead, a 4th, a 2nd, a 35th, and a 3rd. So 3 top 4 finishes in 4 starts there. That's pretty darn good.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, it comes down to being able to put it all together.
Yeah. And Martinsville, just to kind of reiterate, we were talking about how Martinsville hasn't been his best track. Only 2 top 10 finishes at Martinsville in 9 starts. And that was his spring finish. He finished 7th. That is his best career finish there. So I think his championship hopes is he either plants that flag next week at Homestead or it's over.
Yeah, I mean, that said, what were Christopher Bell's career stats before he won the Hail Melon race at Martinsville that year? I mean, we didn't really see that coming necessarily. I mean, we've seen moments where people sort of come out of nowhere at Martinsville. Fair. To be like, whoa,
very
holy
fair.
Cow. I mean, Blaney last year and Blaney's been pretty good at Martinsville.
Blaney has thrown away many a win at Martinsville over the years.
Yeah, he's shown flashes. He's shown flashes. For
Yeah,
sure.
no, you're right. I mean, Bell, I'm popping it up here, but you're right. I mean, Bell kind of came out of nowhere, and you do it. It does feel like young drivers. It's like Martinsville. I always say is the toughest track to figure out, and you go there and you suck, and then it's like boom, oh, whoa, it's like a light bulb goes off, and it's like okay, so I mean, maybe that does happen with Reddick.
Jordan, what did you think of the racing today?
It was okay. It wasn't. Our expectations on 1.5 mile tracks are so high because of the typically great racing we see at Kansas and Charlotte and just about any intermediate track nowadays. I personally didn't think it was amazing by any means. I thought it was just kind of a shrug your shoulders, like, it's just okay. It wasn't. Christopher Bell seemed like he had everybody covered. There's moments where guys were in the vicinity and you're like, okay, yeah, Truex is close or Byron or, whatever, but it just felt like Bell's race to win or lose. I wasn't enamored with it. It wasn't a race you're like, oh, wow, this is great, man. We need more intermediate tracks. It was okay. It was just, was what it was. You?
I enjoyed it, honestly. And I was enjoying it while also thinking, I don't really know if people didn't really enjoy this. I loved it. Watching it from the press box, I felt like you could pass. I didn't feel like people were totally stuck. And I felt like the fastest cars could kind of move. And I thought it was really compelling to see everybody just kind of going all out for the battles and the position. And I think, even the Reddick moment there, the mistake that was, right? Like that's people feeling like they've got to get positions and everybody knew what was on the line. Obviously you had a really, really great strategy battle at the end. I mean, being able to watch,
I enjoyed that,
track Logano down. You're like, wow, this is great stuff. I mean, is he going to get there? Is he going to get there? You had that for the whole last 25, 30 laps. I mean, he came from 26 seconds back to within less than, what was the margin of victory? 0.6. I mean, that was awesome. I loved that. I loved watching that unfold. I was glad it unfolded naturally with no caution at the end. I wanted to see it play out. I wanted to see the strategy unfold the way it did and just see what worked. So for me, I liked it, right? But I also was sitting up there going, I bet a lot of people thought that parts of this were boring or whatever. I personally liked it. This would have been an easy yes for me, but that's not what we're predicting. We're predicting what other people think. You won last week, so the score is now 4-3 with 4 races remaining here. What are you going to pick, Jordan? You got to pick first.
I am going to go 67%.
And what's your reasoning?
Fine race, nothing noteworthy, perfectly acceptable, but nothing, not what we've seen in intermediate racetracks. We're like, oh my goodness, that was great.
Okay, so I thought this was an easy 70% race. I'm surprised to hear you go that low. I mean, it's certainly possible. I'm not going to, certainly I'm not going to sit here and celebrate and act like you made a wrong call because I've definitely got myself in trouble with that.
Once in a while, yeah.
But I do think it'll be higher. So, and obviously I don't care about prices, right? So I'm just going to simply go higher. This is not going to come down to a tiebreaker because it's going to end on an odd number. So I don't need to worry about being, trying to be closer like in the regular season. Anyway, 67.1%. So
I don't know how you sleep at night.
I don't care.
Yeah,
I don't care.
Nice.
I will do what it takes to win.
Okay.
Huh?
Okay.
So
whatever.
I do think it'll be in the 70s. I was realistically, I was probably going to say 73 anyway. So I was going to go low 70s. So there you go.
Fair.
Do you want to touch on a couple things? Well, first of all, is there anything else from this race that you wanted to discuss that was in your notes that we didn't get covered here?
Receipts, baby. That's all I got.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Daniel Suarez, by the way, finished his third after trying the same strategy that Logano did. He just had to back his fuel down, I guess, way more, probably. I don't know if that's
about
Ford,
Alex Bowman.
the Roush Chase engines or okay.
Yeah, Alex Bowman, man, what a great weekend for him. Goes there, runs well after a crummy, DQ last week. And how can you not feel for him? And where he could be in this playoff had things turned out differently. And just, it's such a Bowman thing to be disqualified and, out of a finish that would have let you move on to the next round. And just, I feel bad for him.
Yeah. I mean, it's certainly a what might have been type scenario, right? When you come out, and yeah, I mean, I don't know where he would be in points, but given that he finished fifth, and had stage points and stuff, I mean, you'd probably go, man, he'd be feeling really good about his great playoff run. Keep going, but we thought there was going to be an appeal after the DQ. There obviously was not, because apparently it wasn't even close. So. No.
From what I heard, I mean, it's a black or white thing. I mean, that's what it comes down to. It's really hard to argue this unless you can definitively point to something and say, here's why we lost the weight. But if something fell off your race car during the course of a race or something like that, they're going to find it more likely on the racetrack, and they never did. Like, it's a black or white issue to me. And I was surprised they didn't appeal it, just because why not? And I asked a couple people this week about that. And I said, why would you not just appeal it? Just take your shot, Hail Mary. And they're like, you have no idea how much strain that puts on an organization, from Chad Canals and Jeff Andrews and everybody, throughout the organization, and trying to put together their appeal. And it's just like, if you really don't think you can do it at this time of year, it's not worth it. So I guess that's why they didn't do it.
Yeah, but I thought if it was close at all, like they could have, that video from McDowell's car last week. Oh, it's kind of showed something falling off the car.
It wasn't close.
Argued. Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. So the fact that it wasn't close at all, it was sort of like, yeah.
I can't confirm this, but I've heard the number, and I'm like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, it wasn't like it was off by a few ounces or a pound.
No.
So, yeah. So, that's what it is. And you just move on. But I think it stinks for Bowman, because obviously he didn't do anything wrong. But, so anything else?
I got nothing
from this race. Or okay.
Oh, did you know that Joey Logano makes the championship 4 in even numbered years?
Really?
Yeah. Didn't know if you knew that or not.
You're just deciding to tell me this now?
Yeah, it just came to me. Just light bulb went off in the old head. Just like, boop. Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot. I should mention this.
Okay, cool. I don't know if it's even years for AJ Allmendinger, but there's another driver who's locked into the championship race that I don't think anybody necessarily thought. I mean, maybe some people did, but he goes to Vegas and he wins his first race of the entire season when it matters the most, holding off Ryan Sieg. Still looking for that first victory. Got a feel for that guy. But Allmendinger certainly deserved it, and he, had a great race when he needed to. Now he's in the championship 4. So you have the first 2 drivers lock themselves in to the title race from the top 2 series are ones where you're like, huh? What? Okay. Yeah, sure. Yeah. I mean, that's the system.
That's the system. I mean, to me, Allmendinger's the bigger surprise. I mean, I've laid it out why Logano winning and pulling this off isn't a complete, but the year that organization has, Colleague Racing, particularly in oval tracks, intermediate oval tracks, there really wasn't anything you could point to and say, hey, this team feels like they can do it. They have a history of doing this. This was out of left field. This was certainly a surprise.
I would like to talk about briefly Doug Rice from PRN. This, as you probably know, everybody, was Doug's last lap, his final race call. Performance Racing Network, which is owned by Speedway Motorsports, only does those tracks. That will change in the future, I guess, as they're sort of working toward combining those radio networks over time. I think that's the direction they're going eventually. So, I think that it's interesting that you know, he got such a good reception from everybody throughout the year. And, you know, you're like, well, why? You know, like, yeah, he's been around for a long time, but I think it's not just his radio calls, not just, oh, you know, this guy called Jeff Gordon's first win and all that stuff. It's the way he also treated people and helped so many people. He's such a great dude. I hope the people listening to this have gotten to come in contact with him over the years. And this was evidenced by, he had a retirement party at the South Point on Friday night. And there was people there like Mike Bagley and Alex Hayden from MRN who, you know, they weren't broadcasting this weekend here, right? They flew out to Vegas just for this party. Heather DeBow, who lives in Phoenix now, the pit reporter, she drove up 5 hours because Doug had given her her first start in sort of a broadcasting platform. I know Alan Cavana, people like that have talked about how much Doug has helped them. Adrian Parker, I saw people like that all throughout the industry have posted how much Doug gave them a chance or helped them. So it's not that just he's been around for 36 years, you know, in the booth, but and calling races and help PRN get going and all that stuff. But it's overall like, you know, the impact that he had on people. So I think that was pretty cool. And you know, I don't know if you guys seen it, but they posted the clip of his last lap, so to speak. And yeah, I mean, he said it was emotional. I talked to him afterwards. He got, you know, there's a lot of tears up there, but he also got a new car as a going away gift. So that's good too.
Not bad. Really nice man. Like maybe the nicest man in the industry. Always has a kind word for you. Always really supportive and encouraging. Always willing to give you a helping hand. Always enjoyed my conversation with Doug. I see him a lot. Our paths cross, not just at the racetrack, but really outside the racetrack. I think the world of Doug. He's a great man, and I'm glad he gets to go and spend, just enjoy the rest of the time. His wife, I think, just recently retired too, and good for them to get to go enjoy their golden years together.
Another shout out I'd like to talk about was, I was very happy to see Dalton Hopkins back at the track this weekend from Front Stretch. I don't know if you've had much chance to talk to him, Jordan, but last we saw him, he was a lieutenant in the Army Reserve, I believe. Now he has come back as a captain. And not only that, he just spent 9 months in Africa being deployed in a not very friendly environment. So he had to pause his NASCAR journalism for a while. Told a great story. I hope he shares it sometime on one of the Front Stretch platforms, but how he was trying to watch the Daytona 500 at like 3 a.m. in Africa this year on his phone. And they got like a alert of an attack coming basically. And so he had to like spring into action as he's trying to watch the final laps of the Daytona 500. So anyway, that's really cool to see him back. And obviously thanks for his service and everybody else serving out there. And yeah, hopefully he's able to stick around the track more than having to go back overseas sometimes. But because I think even though the track can be have its headaches at sometimes with all the politics of the drama or whatever, sure beats being deployed somewhere overseas. It's not too fun in a war zone. But he did have a great line, by the way. We were at lunch and he was talking to one of his coworkers, Brian, just jokingly, and he's like, see what I have to deal with. And he's like, man, I'd rather be back at war than have to deal with this. And I thought, man, I wish I could say that to Jordan Bianchi. I would serve just so I could say that to you, Jordan, when I got annoyed with you. I wish I was at war instead of this.
You'd be saying it all the time as often as you get annoyed with me. Happens on a multiple time a day basis, shall we say?
Oh, come on. That's not true.
Oh, it's so true.
All right. So Homestead, Martinsville, and Phoenix, you got to put up with me for the last 3 weeks of the season. So yeah, I'm sure you're looking forward to that.
Luckily, we're not carpooling or anything, so that'll be nice. I don't even think we're staying at the same hotels for any of these trips, so that'll also be nice.
Is that intentional?
You know what? It's just how the chips fell. It's an unfortunate break.
Oh, because I told you where I was booking, what hotels, and you booked a different hotel.
You know, when I tried to get into those places, I just couldn't. They didn't have room for me. It's just it's unfortunate.
Oh, okay.
Actually, I think in Phoenix, I'm much closer, I think, than you are. So.
Okay.
So,
all right.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you guys are going to see us in the same room for the next 3 weeks. So
yeah, if Jeff doesn't kill me,
it's going to be a fun finish here to the end of the season.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else, Jordan, before we get going?
No, I'm looking forward to Homestead. And I know you look at the point standings and you're like, wow, oh, that's a big gap between who's in and who's out. But as we've seen, I think Homestead's going to shake it up, and I think we're going to leave there going, oh wow, okay, you know, even though I think the 3 guys above the cut line now are going to move on and join Logano in the championship 4. I just, there's still a part of it looks at this and says the way this year has gone, as good as this field of 8 is, any of these guys could go to Homestead and win the race, and I wouldn't be shocked at all. And I think we're going to be in store for something special next week.
All right. All right, everybody. Well, thanks as always for listening. Appreciate you all. Appreciate all your support. And we will talk to you next time on The Teardown. See you, everybody.